Hi, I'm Daniel O'Connor from the Warp It Reuse Network, and in this video I'm going to highlight 5 activities you can carry out which maximizes your time and your impact, helping you to embed a reuse program into your organization. So the focus here is giving you hints, tips, advice on areas to target which have the most gain and the least time input. I'm going to talk about getting support from other departments. I'm going to talk about the hooks and no-brainer logic you can use to get staff on board. And I'm also going to talk about some policy changes that are very effective. First thing you need to realize, the top tip is you can't do this alone. Bringing a reuse program into an organization is a collaboration across a lot of departments. Within those departments, the staff have different hooks for bringing them on board, and I'll explain those hooks over the next few slides. So activity 1, you must improve collaboration between departments. Identify stakeholders who have the most to gain from a reuse program. Identify their benefits and explain that to them, and then get agreement on the fact that reuse is going to help them in their work life to save time, save money, or some other saving in their work processes. So we're looking at internal collaboration between a few different departments. This is a list of departments that have a benefit from a reuse program. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm going to give you some logic on why each department likes or can benefit from a reuse program. I'm going to identify the hooks so that you can get their support. Okay, and when I say support, it's just the support of a reuse program, right? It's not something that they're going to have to get involved with on a day-to-day basis, but getting their support is really important for building a foundation to your reuse program, because if things go wrong, and they usually do, you've got a team on board who, because they support this already, if things go wrong, the impact of something going wrong is less than if you didn't have the support in the first time. Okay, so what's the benefit to the procurement department? Well, when you implement a reuse program, staff trade surplus assets between each other, so there's no purchase orders. Okay, so staff actually like to take part in a reuse program because they don't need to fill in a purchase order. Okay, that's great. But also within the procurement team, if you're not processing lots of purchase orders, you can divert that staff admin time to something much more impactful. Okay, so we're fixing a problem within the procurement department insofar as there's too many purchase orders, you're buying too much stuff because staff have that stuff surplus elsewhere already. Okay, first one. Second one, the main purchases across your organization can save money by implementing a reuse program, because instead of buying new, they can access surplus assets across your estate or even within other organizations if you use the right tool. So I run a thing called Warp It. On Warp It, staff trade surplus assets within organizations and between organizations. So here you see, some really nice high quality desks that another organization has that they want to dispose of that someone in your organization could have had. Okay, what's the hooks for the head porter or the waste manager or whoever looks after the logistics or the housekeeping side of facilities? Well, if you set up a reuse system, you find homes for stuff or items or assets, whatever you want to call it, for assets that you would have normally disposed of to the waste system. Okay, so you find homes for them, then you don't need to dispose of them anymore. Okay, that's great. Cost saving, hassle saving, but also there's that reputational damage that you avoid, because if staff or stakeholders or the public see that you're disposing of reusable items, that causes a negative psychological reaction in that person and affects your reputation in their eyes. Okay, even worse, if you're shrinking as an organization, i.e. laying people off, and you're still throwing out reusable furniture, that is wrong. The system is broken. You need to fix it. You need a reuse system right now. Okay, so that's for the facilities. That's for the head porter. For facilities or a space man or a storage manager or a space manager, if you have a reuse program, you can match up disposals to new homes directly in a movement that goes A to B instead of A to store to B. You don't want to double handle things. Double handling is a waste of time. It's a waste of time because you're moving twice instead of once. You're also doubling the risk of damaging the asset and damaging the person carrying the asset, so it's a big no-no. You don't want to double handle. Also, if you can match the donator with the recipient directly, you don't need to bother with storage. Storage is also a no-no because when you store something, you need to manage it. That takes time and effort. And also when you store things, they tend to get damp or broken or soiled and they need to be thrown out anyway. So if you have a reuse system that matches up donators with the recipients directly today or even in the future, like ours does, then you reduce the need for double handling and storage. Okay. Space manager. Okay, so lots of organizations have space targets. Space is expensive. Real estate is expensive. So, if you've got stuff cluttering up your space, this is a poor use of your buildings. It's a poor use of your money. Okay, so it's a natural human tendency to hoard stuff. Okay, if you have a reuse system, it gives that owner the opportunity to offer that item for reuse elsewhere across the organization or beyond. Okay, so that's how a reuse system helps your space manager. And here's just an example from our system. On our system, you can collaborate externally. So these bins, they were taking up space in an undercroft in a NHS South London. 40 of these bins, they were added to our system. NHS Tayside claimed them all in one go, sent in a van to pick them up, and that was that space that was liberated after that. Okay. Here are the hooks for anybody involved with building rationalisation, decants, moves, or refurbishment of buildings. Generally, that's within the capital development department. But what these guys can do with a reuse system is catalogue assets well in advance of the vacancy date, make the details of those assets available across the estate so that staff can book items in the future. So in the UK we say Bagsy, but that's just like, it's like having a booking list for assets that are going to become available in the future. Okay, that's for building clearances. The worst thing in the world is when you do a building clearance and everything's left to the last minute and all those assets get left in the building. What happens then? The building gets passed either to a contractor who then, guess what, smash up the assets, get the scrap metal, and that's it. The opportunity is gone, right? Never let your contractor say they're going to recycle your furniture. The value of furniture is still being furniture, not being smashed up to scrap metal. Okay, so to recap on just that one, you can catalogue your assets in the building way in advance of any building move. Yeah, make them available, make those details available across the estate. Let people book those assets in the future. When the building vacancy date comes, you look at your spreadsheet, or if you've got an automatic system like ours, it does it automatically. But you can look at your spreadsheet and go, right, these are going there, these are going there, these are going there. That's how you clear your buildings. Okay, so that's the hook for building rationalisation managers. So that was activity one, the hooks for your reuse team. Okay, now the second activity is getting that reuse team to take part in a public pledge that they support reuse. Okay, so remember the reuse team was this list. You're going to go through this list and explain the benefits of reuse to each person in the list. Okay, and they're going to then say, well, yes, this is a no-brainer, I agree to it. And at that point, you've got to get them to pledge. Now, when they agree that reuse is a good idea, that's the chance to then put this following proposal forward. Activity 2, the pledge. So, a verbal pledge is strong. I keep my word sort of thing. A written pledge is even stronger, i.e. a contract. Yeah. But a public pledge is the strongest thing you can do. So, what's the most common public pledge of commitment? The wedding band. Yeah, the wedding band tells everybody that you've pledged yourself to somebody else. Same with reuse. Okay, so what we want to do with reuse is we want to get the reuse team to pledge that reuse is a good idea in your organization and they support it. Take a photo, everyone together, put it in a newsletter, put it on the website, get it out there. We agree, reuse is a good idea. It is in fact a no-brainer. Let's do this, okay? That's what you need to do, activity 2. Okay, the next activity that you can carry out that has the biggest bang for its buck is to change your internal policies towards reuse. Now, yes, policy changes are slow and laborious, and they probably, and most often than not, defy logic. And this is all about being logical, explaining the logical benefits. So this activity is a bit of a slow burner, but it's the biggest impact one you can have, okay? Now, we've already written a template reuse policy right here that you can borrow and edit as you see fit and apply to your organization. Now remember, at this stage, you've already got the agreement from the reuse implementation team, okay? Now, in that team will be some influential people who can get policies put in front of committees, okay? So use those contacts to get policies put forward, okay? But you might need some evidence of a business case for a policy change, okay? So what you need to do is, as part of your reuse program, you need to monitor the value of the assets that are traded so that you can start to build up a business case on why you should change your policy, okay? Now, on our system on Warpit, we do that automatically. So, for example, when you're trading assets on Warpit, you can immediately see how much you're saving internally, how much you're saving on waste, how much you're claiming from other organisations, how much you're donating to other organisations. Okay, now that's all automatic on our system. You can do that manually, by looking at the value of assets that are being traded and the weight and all that sort of thing. Now this is a savings profile of one of our customers. You can see they launched the system then. They then took a while to get their ducks in a row. They launched it, had great success, started to dip off, and then they made some policy changes. Okay, they used the evidence here to make policy changes here, and then they started to make some more savings. Okay, so that's the effect that policy changes can have. And you can see here, these are our top 10 performers this month, and you can see here, the total savings over time, total savings per month. So the savings for reuse programs are significant. Even in smaller organizations, really significant savings can be made. So it's these savings, this evidence that you use to then change policy on reuse, okay? Now, what I'm going to tell you about now is the policies you need to change. You need to change purchasing policy, disposal policy, and the building clearance policy, not surprisingly. So activity 3, change your purchasing policy. This is a very simple one, really, because it's such a no-brainer. Yeah. Before anyone buys new, they need to check the reuse system to see if that asset is already available within the organisation or within partner organisations. Simple. The best procurement is when there's no procurement, right? Activity 4, change your disposal policy. Again, this should be a fairly easy no-brainer, right? So let's just say your disposal policy is currently this. If I've got a spare desk I need to dispose of, I phone up a porter, the porter comes, takes it away, either tries to reuse it, puts it into storage, or smashes it up to go in the skip. Okay, that's the current one. Now you've got to say is, porters don't take items away anymore. They ask the person who's trying to dispose of the item to add the item to the reuse system where it will be advertised to the rest of the staff. At which point it's claimed, the porter will move it from A to B. Okay, so the porter's doing the same job. The person trying to dispose of the item is doing the same job. Okay, but it's just a much better use of time and resources. Okay, now you're going to say, yeah, but I need this desk moved ASAP. That's fine. But to start with, that's fine. But in 6 months, 12 months, when this policy's been in place, staff will then know they need to think ahead, 5, 10, 30 days ahead before they need to dispose of something, okay? Because scrapping assets is no longer viable, okay? Activity 5, change your building clearance policy. So this starts in the contract for the tender. In the contract, you must specify reuse of surplus assets before the vacancy date, okay? Specify internal reuse over external reuse, and specify reuse, not recycling. Recycling is a lost opportunity. Recycling is like next to landfill. It's recycling furniture is borderline useless, okay? And I'll stand by that. In fact, it's worse than landfill. because the furniture's gone forever. So yeah, so those are the specifications you need to change in building policy. And what that means in practice is, when you're doing a building clearance, either somebody internal or a contractor or an intern or anyone like that needs to go into the building, catalogue all the assets, put them on the reuse system. Those assets are then made available to other staff or third parties. You put a little name next to who's getting what, and on the vacancy date, you do the trade. Okay. Now on our system, that's all automatic, but you can use a spreadsheet. You can just use a 5-bar gate. A nice easy tip for cataloguing assets in a building is, if this building's got 200 people in, there's going to be 200 operators' chairs, there's going to be 200 desks, there's going to be 200 pedestals. So you can very easily and quickly catalogue 80% of the assets in a building just by sitting at the desk and doing half an hour's work. Okay, so don't let negative comments stop you from doing this. Just think of the one good reason it's worth doing and go and do it. Okay, because it's easier than you think. Okay, so I've been ranting for 15 minutes now. Here are the take-home tips. Here's a summary. Assemble your reuse team and explain their logic, why they should get involved with reuse and why they should support reuse. Get them to publicly pledge their support. Remember the ring, public pledge, photo. And then you've got to look at the change policy. Change the purchasing policy, change the disposal policy. Those two, it should be a no-brainer. Those should go straight through. Building clearance, bit harder because you've got to think long-term about tenders and contracts. But yeah, you just got to change those policies, okay? And remember, we've got that template policy online already. So we've got that policy already written for you. You can check it out there. And that's it. Thanks for your time. I'm Daniel O'Connor. You can find me on LinkedIn at Daniel B. O'Connor, or you can drop me an email if you want to discuss anything in this presentation, or you can follow us on Twitter. Thanks for your time. Have a great day.